Season 2 of the Kingdom series begins exactly where the first season ended, with hordes of zombies advancing toward the characters. As the terrifying chaos unfolds, a troubling question arises: why are the zombies no longer afraid of sunlight? Lord On is visibly disturbed, while Seo Bai and Biampal find themselves surrounded by zombies in the frozen valley. Seo Bai realizes that the zombies can move during the day because the freezing temperatures of winter have lowered the ambient heat. Biampal then suspects the city may already be overrun, prompting him to take Seo Bai to a ridge where his uncle, Counselor Cho, is stationed. Meanwhile, in the royal palace, an officer of the royal army finds the corpses of several women in prison, all of whom had recently given birth. The prime minister reveals this disturbing fact, and when the queen consort learns that her secret is about to be exposed, she orders it to be kept hidden so the council remains unaware. Power-hungry, the queen consort had already plotted to make her son king and take full control of the kingdom. At night, Li Chang and his soldiers climb the city walls and launch a surprise attack. Li and his forces infiltrated the military camp and launched an attack on Cho's fortress. However, when Li entered the room, Cho had already fled. Suddenly, the doors slammed shut, and the king appeared, but he had now turned into a zombie. It was revealed that this had all been part of Cho's master plan. Li found himself in a grave dilemma. If he killed the king, he would be accused of regicide, the murder of his own father. But if he didn't, the entire kingdom would fall into Cho's hands. Meanwhile, Cho's soldiers captured Shin and the other troops. Believing his plan had finally succeeded, Cho stood triumphant, until Lord On appeared and ordered the soldiers to lay down their arms. Enraged, Cho commanded his men to attack Lord On. Despite being shot, Lord On used the last of his strength to open the locked door for Li. In that critical moment, Li beheaded the zombie king, choosing the fate of the kingdom over his personal ties. Seeing this, Cho tried to present himself as a loyal servant and had Li imprisoned in the palace. On the other hand, some officials who were examining the corpses of women discovered carts nearby. When they inspected the carts, they found the horrifying sight of dead women and infants hidden inside the TO exposed the queen consort's conspiracy. Solid evidence had to be gathered before she could officially declare her son the heir to the throne. Meanwhile, Seo Bai, with Biampal's help, infiltrated the palace prison to meet Crown Prince Li. There, Li wrote a secret message on the ground with water, part of a coordinated plan between him and Lord On. At the same time, Shin was devising an escape plan with his fellow prisoners. Just then, Counselor Cho ordered all prisoners to be brought to the palace. As the prison doors opened, Shin attacked the guards with a hidden weapon and tried to escape, but Cho's soldiers outnumbered them, leading to their capture again. However, things took a turn when Lord On, who had been turned into a zombie as part of a backup plan made during a war with Japanese pirates 3 years ago, suddenly appeared. Back then, Counselor Cho had used the resurrection plant to reanimate fallen soldiers to win the war. Although the strategy was successful, Lord On was filled with guilt and had vowed to use it again only if necessary, as undeniable proof of the zombie plague. Now, as a zombified On attacked Cho, Cho ordered his men to fire, but even while severely injured, On managed to bite Cho before both collapsed, sending a wave of panic among the soldiers. Li then stepped forward and revealed the truth, that Cho had conspired to take over the kingdom. Seeing the undeniable evidence, the royal guards finally sided with Li. Meanwhile, under Biampal's suggestion, Cho was given medical treatment. Seo Bai examined his body to investigate the plague, and when Biampal asked if Cho would turn into a zombie, Seo Bai guessed that only those who consumed infected flesh became contagious. She noticed Cho's body temperature was dropping and suggested special herbs were needed to keep him warm. Biampal brought out sapon wood, a rare herb prescribed by the queen, but Seo Bai grew suspicious, knowing that sapon wood is harmful to pregnant women. Shortly after, Li arrived with his men to check on Cho, only to find Seo Bai and her team missing. The mastermind behind this was revealed to be Mu, secretly a spy for Cho. Cho had taken Mu's pregnant wife hostage, forcing Mu to betray Li to protect his family. When Mu realized Cho's condition was worsening, he tried to save him in hopes of securing his wife's release. But Cho's health deteriorated further, forcing them to stop. Seo Bai cared for Cho but grew suspicious of Mu's behavior and confronted him about the queen Mu was stunned. Soon, Cho's family guards attacked, and Mu was severely wounded. As he lay dying, Mu realized Cho had manipulated him all along. His wife had only been kept alive to bear the queen's child through surrogacy. Overcome with regret, Mu begged Seobai to reveal the truth about the conspiracy. With his final breath, he staggered into the forest, but Lee caught him and held him in his arms. Tearfully, Mu confessed that only Seobai could expose the truth and that Lee must find her at all costs. Meanwhile, in the royal court, officials interrogated the queen's maidservants, but they refused to speak. The lead investigator decided to search the queen's chambers directly. However, this was all part of the queen's plot. She accused the officer of treason and had him executed, effectively removing one of the last honest voices in the palace. Inside the palace, Biampal and Seobai tried to save the critically injured Cho. Despite Cho's misdeeds, Biampal couldn't bear to see his uncle die and pleaded with Seobai to help him. That's when Seobai remembered that zombies feared water and fire. She decided to submerge Cho in water, and to her shock, parasites began emerging from his wounds. This confirmed her theory: the parasites were the true cause of the plague and the reason the infected feared water. At the same time, news spread through the palace: the queen had given birth to a son. But behind this announcement was a deadly conspiracy. To cover up the truth about surrogacy, the queen ordered all pregnant women to be killed. The nightmare wasn't over yet. The queen's soldiers were disposing of the bodies of the murdered women when Lee and his allies, who had secretly infiltrated the city, witnessed the horrifying scene, fully exposing the queen's conspiracy. Suddenly, Lee heard a woman's scream. Rushing into a nearby room with his team, he rescued her, and to his shock, discovered that she was none other than Mu's wife. The next day in court, ministers began discussing the proposal to declare the queen's newborn son as the next king. At that moment, the supervising eunuch bravely revealed the murders of pregnant women. During this tense exchange, Cho regained consciousness and angrily lashed out at the ministers for questioning the royal family's honor. Meanwhile, Seobai and Biampal had gone to the market in search of medicine when they saw innocent civilians being led away to be executed. There, Seobai spotted Shim and immediately realized that Lee and his men had entered the city. She quickly found a way to send Biampal away and secretly met with Lee in a narrow alley. At Seobai then explained to Lee that the parasites found in the resurrection plant were the real cause of the plague. Lee urged her to urgently find a cure to save lives. He also suggested she get close to the queen to uncover the truth about the imperial heir. Since Cho still cared about royal bloodlines, he personally escorted Seobai to the queen's chambers and asked her to examine the queen's pulse. After her examination, Seobai revealed that the queen had shown no signs of recent childbirth. Infuriated, Cho accused his daughter of deceit, calling her a fool. In a final decision, he declared the fake heir must be killed and the queen imprisoned, but Cho never truly understood his daughter. She had already poisoned the wine he drank, leading to his sudden death. After Cho's demise, preparations for his funeral began. The queen, seeking to secure her power, appointed Biampal as the head of the royal guard to protect herself and her son. Meanwhile, she imprisoned Seobai in a secret dungeon where other zombies were already held, intending to kill her to eliminate any threats. When Lee arrived at the palace, he found the queen seated on the throne, holding the supposed royal heir. He demanded her surrender, but she refused, calling Lee a traitor and releasing the zombies from the dungeon as a final move. Hearing the screams, Seobai freed herself using a key given by a maid and reached the main hall, only to find chaos as zombies wreaked havoc in the palace. The next day, Lee and the surviving soldiers began cleansing the palace. The Grand Scholar warned Lee that the remnants of Cho's bloodline could still stir rebellion. Meanwhile, Seobai was found hiding with the royal baby. The ministers insisted the baby be killed, but Seobai revealed it was actually Mu's son. Lee then abandoned his claim to the throne and stepped away from power. 7 years later, the boy became the new king of Joseon, with Biampal as prime minister guiding him. The queen remained silently watching from the palace. Shin returned and told Biampal that Lee and Seobai were investigating the resurrection plant, which was now being trafficked across the nation. In the north, Lee and Seobai found corpses with bells tied to their bodies, and then, a mysterious woman appeared, smiling. With that chilling moment, Season 2 ends.